Shemblits has to say. Let's see.
Many MMORPGs that require a subscription fee nowadays, with the main two being Final Fantasy XIV and World of Warcraft, which are both titans of the genre. They're huge. Now, it's hard to believe, but there was a time.
It's insane that Final Fantasy XIV has hit a level of prestige, where it is literally at this point going toe-to-toe with World of Warcraft. Like, that's actually insane. Like, when you think about how iconic of a game World of Warcraft is, and for how rough I did not play Final Fantasy XIV when it first came out. I didn't play Final Fantasy XIV until like a year and a half ago, at all. And the amount of work that the Square Enix and the team that works on Final Fantasy XIV put into that game shows. Like, in every facet, it shows.
When paying monthly via a subscription was the norm for most MMORPGs, and free-to-play was the alien, unproven concept that no one wanted to try, at least for us MMO gamers in the West. It had been a thing in the East, in Korea MMOs for quite a while. Well, today we do know better,
I don't know
and
any
the
of those.
free-to-play experiment that really picked up steam in the mid to late 2000s has absolutely proven itself to be a far better business model, a far more profitable business model than the traditional method of just selling the game, which was the norm back then, as I say. It's so much better that many of the highest performing video games now use that free-to-play model, and many other games have been forced to adopt this model, even if they didn't want to. Star Wars: The Old Republic launched in December of 2011 and moved to a free-to-play model less than a year later in November of 2012. News outlets at the time were reporting that this was due to low subscriber numbers, which painted a pretty bleak picture for the game. However, EA put out an earning report just 6 months later, stating that their average monthly revenue had doubled since it went free-to-play. It wasn't just Star Wars either. Lord of the Rings Online had pretty much the same experience, but they had a 400% increase in players, and that also led to their monthly revenue doubling when they went free to play.
Okay.
Now, this is great for business, don't get me wrong.
So, especially when a game's free to play, I think it earns, right? Like, it's a lot easier to justify microtransactional spending in a video game when it's free to play, right? And that's not news. Like, I think that's like a pretty basic opinion, right? But when you have a game that you've paid 60, 70, maybe you got the collector's edition, you paid 80 or 90, right? But when you pay that much, being asked to fork over more money for the experience can feel like you're being taken advantage of as a consumer. With that being said, I think there are good and bad. There are definitely pros and cons, right, to the free-to-play model. The revenue ceiling for the free-to-play model is a lot higher than the revenue for ceiling for like a purchased finished product, because the developers or the publisher of the game can nickel and dime that money out of you.
But it's not always so great for us as players. There are some downsides that seem to constantly appear in games that use the free-to-play model, and these downsides are often referred to collectively by us as pay-to-win, or to a lesser extent, pay-to-progress. MMOs, even sub-based ones, aren't shy about advertising services that benefit the player in some way, and because MMOs usually have a ton of different activities that you can do, this also creates a ton of opportunities for the developer to make money from you in the form of microtransactions.
Yep.
Things like buying in-game currency with real-life money, weapon skins, armor skins, mounts, mount skins, pets, toys, character slots, race changes, buying levels, emotes, convenience items, the ability to get married with another character in-game. Final Fantasy does this. In-game houses, stuffed animals for your in-game house, furniture for your house, crafting materials, upgrade materials. There's so much that they can sell you. And it's not like I even thought hard about that list. It took me about 30 seconds to put that together, and some of those are just off the top of my head. It's not even in the script. Now, you can argue that most of that, if not all of it, is optional, okay? And you never need to spend a penny on any of it. That is true. But studios need to make their money somehow. And those that go free to play have to rely entirely on these microtransactions to keep their business running, which can create some very aggressive monetization strategies.
So, I haven't played several of those, but I have played the Elder Scrolls Online, and it does incentivize you. Like the subscription is now optional. You don't need it to play the game. But if you have the subscription, you do get perks. Like you get unlimited storage space for your crafting materials, which in like an Elder Scrolls game is super valuable. And you get like a monthly allotment of their like in-game currency to spend on whatever the heck you want.
That can pretty much ruin an otherwise good game. Lost Ark and Diablo Immortal are two very recent and obvious examples of good games being brought down by their invasive monetization.
I don't know if Lost Ark was brought down by its invasive. So, Lost Ark is a Korean MMORPG, and it is standard for what that marketplace expects. It was an issue of sticker shock or like price tag shock coming over to a Western audience, and there's a difference in perspective there. Like as a Western audience, like I'm from the U.S. and I'm assuming most of the folks that may be watching or tuning in would be from the U.S. right, but like microtransactions are like an addendum or like meant to enhance the game, but are not seen as like a core component. Versus in a lot of Eastern style games, you have microtransactions kind of baked into the gameplay, and you're expected to put some money in.
Strategies, which, whilst you don't have to spend the money, you'll want to if you want to enjoy the game and get the most out of them.
Yeah.
Other games are a bit less aggressive, such as Final Fantasy XIV, which is almost entirely cosmetic based, and there's no need to spend additional money to enjoy the game in a reasonable capacity, as content isn't gated behind these microtransactions like Lost Ark with its upgrade.
I will say with Final Fantasy, specifically with Final Fantasy, I've bought things off the Mog Station. I bought wedding presents for a couple of my friends that got married in game. I've bought like a couple like little cosmetics and stuff like that. Like they put a lot of love into that game, and if you enjoy something, spend your money where you will, right? But be smart about it, right? Like don't not pay your rent because you wanted to buy like the $45 whale mount in Final Fantasy XIV.
Grade system. Now, back in 2014, Pete Hines, the marketing lead for Elder Scrolls Online, attempted to justify their subscription fee by stating that it allowed the development team to focus 100% on content creation. And if they had chosen free-to-play instead, then a portion of the development resources would be spent on creating cosmetics for the store and not on content for the game.
Yeah, but they did that
Now,
anyway.
Elder Scrolls dropped their sub-fee model just over a year after release, and today the game has a microtransaction store with everything from loot boxes, mounts, pets, houses, furniture, crafting tools, bank space upgrades, face paint, armor sets, and so on. A lot of these smaller things in there cost around £6, but the things that you care about, like mounts or player houses, can set you back as much as 3,000 or 15,000 crowns respectively. Now, of course, you can't buy 15,000 crowns, so you have to buy the 21,000 crown bundle, which will set you back a total of 110 real-life pounds to get that player house. At least you'll have some crowns left over to buy some furniture, because that player house doesn't come furnished. Guild Wars 2 is similar with its approach to cosmetics, but most outfits are about 700 gems, which will set you back around £8.50 real-life money, with the most sought-after items being around 1,600, which will cost you about £17 real-life money, which by comparison doesn't seem so bad. I ripped on Guild Wars 2 in a previous video of mine. Comparatively, Guild Wars 2 is looking pretty good.
Okay.
Other MMOs also restrict players from key features unless you engage in that cash shop. Lord of the Rings, as I spoke about earlier, for example, requires you to spend real-life money to use mounts and increase your gold cap from a measly baseline of 2 gold. Star Wars does something similar, but it's far more generous with a cap of 1 million credits, which is enough to get you most of the things you want. Although Star Wars does restrict content in other ways, such as rewarding you with less credits overall if you're not a subscriber. They don't allow you to quick travel as often, they restrict how often you can take part in PvP, and a few other things like that. So how does this all compare to what we know about Riot? Well, to date, Riot have focused almost entirely on optional cosmetics and have not yet implemented any monetization systems in League or Valorant that make it feel necessary to spend your money. Now, you could argue that new champions in League or agents in Valorant are exactly that, but the reality is they're pretty easy to unlock by just playing the game for a few hours.
That's fair.
They also don't really go overboard with what they can monetize, pretty much just sticking to putting skins on things that don't impact the integrity of the game, even though they could easily go further with this. Dota 2, as an example, sells plenty of terrain skins that makes it easier to see paths through trees, and Counter-Strike sells skins for their characters which give you an advantage in the game, which is not good for a competitive esport. And it's not just Valve either, as Rainbow Six Siege had a similar issue with their Ember Rise and Elite skin lines. There's a person in this screenshot. It's very hard to tell when you're playing the game in the moment. Now, Riot are yet to make these same mistakes with League or Valorant, and this gives me a lot of confidence that whatever we do get from them will have a minimal impact to the quality of the game. As an MMO, they seem to care about the quality and integrity of their games. Now, the downside...
Alright. There's no strict schedule. We're being encouraged to take the time to do it right. We have plenty of opportunity to respond to player feedback and concerns after they've seen and played it. Okay. It's a long road for the MMO project, trying to do it right so we build something worthy of... Okay, so do it right seems to be the company line. So we build something worthy of expectations. Sorry you're not getting a ton of updates for us quite yet, but we're hard at work, making strides every day. The team has a lot of heart, grateful as hell for them. Okay. We aren't a publicly traded company, so there's no investor pressure. Top management, Nicolo, Brandon, Mark, would kill the game in a heartbeat rather than have us ship something inauthentic or rushed. Okay, so if we look at games with context, or game development studios with context, Blizzard used to be very, very popular. In fact, they were known for only releasing the best of the best. And they wouldn't necessarily come up with, like, original ideas, but they would take an idea, they would hone and polish it until you had a literal diamond, you know, to present to the customer. And there were a lot of reports that Blizzard would just scrap games. Like, there are many Blizzard games that were partially developed, and someone said, this doesn't meet our quality standards, we're killing that project, we're going to shift staff onto something else. That is a phenomenal way to be, right? For a game studio to just focus on making a truly quality bit of content. That's really what we want to see. This, provided that this is, you know, is tweeted with integrity, this is a good sign.
Side here is that Riot does have a history of charging large sums of money for tokens that can then be exchanged for those cosmetics, which in my opinion is a pretty insidious way of tricking people into spending their money, as it's harder to keep track of what you're spending over time. However, it's industry norm, everyone does it, so I can't really fault Riot Games for this in particular. However, they do run their skins on limited availability, which preys on that feeling of missing out, right? Because someone will have a skin line that you don't have and you can't buy it anymore. So it makes you want to spend your money on something that you might not even wear, which I have done plenty of times, let's be honest. Now, just to give you an example of this, as I record this video, Valorant has the Xeno Hunter set available for purchase within the store. And as cool as these skins are, they are very cool. The entire bundle, which consists of 4 guns and a knife, cost 7,100 Valorant points, meaning you would have to buy the £90 bundle in order to acquire this set of 4 guns. Now, there are 17 guns in the game total, so you're looking at hundreds of pounds before you have skins for all of them. League skins, by comparison, are much cheaper than Valorant, but there are far more characters to buy skins for, and generally more things to spend your money on, such as rune pages, clash tickets, chromas, loot boxes, little legends, battle passes, and whatever else is
Are chromas in League of Legends just actually like different
temporary skins in ARAM?
Like actually
now, acquiring
just
skins for your guns
glows?
And characters is completely optional and does not impact the gameplay negatively, at least in my opinion. So many of you may argue that this is not a problem, but as we've seen with other MMOs that we've spoken about already in this video, Games that rely primarily on cash shops for their
I've only
money
played 2
often
of
lead
those.
to cosmetics in the store that far outshine those that you can earn in the game.
So, Bungie's done that a couple times recently. Specifically with the new raid pulse rifle. It's a void pulse, and the original scope on the gun is absolute dog water. It's awful. There's a cosmetic that is just an improvement on the gun that allows you to actually use it successfully. And like, if you want to use that gun, you like have to get that cosmetic.
As well as a bunch of convenience items that solve problems which shouldn't be problems in the first place, which I don't personally want. Guild Wars 2 is really bad.
Fallout 76 is also really, really bad for that. Creating a problem and then solving it with something that they've put in the store. They could just not have that problem, but they manufacture that issue so that they can sell you a solution for it. That's, again, like, I have no issue with a company making money. I do have an issue with predatory practices.
Out of this. So what do I think we'll get? Well, it's tough to answer this. I've spoken to a few people, and they just say it will be like League and Valorant with tons of cosmetics. But MMOs are nothing like those games. The player experience is far more personal. You play the same character in an expansive world for several years, not just for 40 minutes or 15 minutes if you're me in a game of League. I have the High Noon skin on 7 of my characters in League, and if they release a High Noon set for the MMO, I'm going to buy it. But I'm only going to buy it once, because I play 1 character, not 7. So where does this leave Riot, a company who has, through the sale of cosmetics, found themselves at the top, arguably, of the gaming world? Do they do what they do with Valorant and try to get players to spend £90 on 1 skin? Or do they progressively make better skins that supersede the old ones, so you spend another £90 on another skin? No, I don't think that's realistic. I think what is far more likely is that they will monetize more than just cosmetics. And that is why it's so hard to know what we'll get. I mentioned earlier that Riot seem to avoid monetizing anything that compromises the integrity of their game. It's the reason we don't have skins for Valorant agents or skins for the Rift in League. Sure, it would make a ton of money, but the game would be worse for it, as it would erode what those games are. It creates a gap in the player experience, which in a competitive game is not what you want. You want that to be as close as possible. And as we've seen in this video, the vast majority of stuff that's in microtransaction shops for MMOs, and I'm yet to see one that doesn't do this, restricts the game in some manner in order to justify the sale of the solution, therefore eroding what that game is. Whatever it might be, the game is worse for it when that stuff is in the cash shop and not just in the game anyway.
Okay.
So this is Riot's problem to solve. We don't want £90 skins in our MMO, and we don't want £30 unbreakable gathering tools in our MMO either, or even £8 ride-in licenses so you can have something as basic as a mount. So what can they do? It's a tough problem to solve. But there is quite an easy solution here, at least I think so. And that is the subscription fee. Now look, I know they haven't worked in the vast majority of cases, but hear me out here. The talent in Riot's MMO team is extraordinary. So I do believe that whatever is released, whatever game comes from this, it will be a good game. I believe that wholeheartedly. I have no doubt in that. Riot also have very little shareholder pressures, so I don't think the game will be forced out early or unfinished. So not only will I think it will be a good game, I think it will be a relatively complete game to a high standard of quality. Riot is also a huge brand with loyal, albeit sometimes toxic, fan base, and who will, at the very least, think about downloading and playing the MMO. Outside of that Riot fan base, there is a huge community of MMO gamers who are ready for something new, and they're looking for a shake about downloading and playing the MMO. Outside of that Riot fan base, there is
let's go. Oh my god, that Final Fantasy is literally there's this Venn diagram is almost a circle. Like, if a Venn diagram of players that play Destiny 2 and players that play Final Fantasy, there's significant overlap here. I did not realize how far and ahead World of Warcraft was. Old school RuneScape, Warframe, fucking Roblox, Path of Exile, WoW Classic. Oh, if you add WoW Classic to that, that's even more impressive. Elder Scrolls Online. I didn't realize how small that was. Is Elite dangerous in MMO? I mean,
Gamers
okay.
who are ready for something
Regular RuneScape doing significantly better than New World.
new, and they're looking for a
EVE Online, I haven't messed with. Anthem, I don't know that Anthem should be.
shake-up in the
World of
genre,
Tanks,
something new to try.
Ashes of Creation. Is this game? This game hasn't even released yet. Albion Online. This is a mobile and PC game. Star Trek
So
Online.
much so, the games
Terra.
Lost Ark,
Guild
which are
Wars?
known to be predatory in their monetization, were hyped up before release. Now, these MMO players, for the most part, are used to paying a subscription fee as well, whether that's World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy, just to play the game, or if it's something like a VIP type system that we see in Elder Scrolls Online.
I think a
Star
premium
Wars,
subscription
and
would
Lord
be
of the
better.
Rings. And finally, it's Riot, and it's an MMO. The hype for this thing will be and is already huge. And if anyone can get away with charging a subscription fee, it's going to be Riot Game. Now, as much as I'm an advocate for it, I actually do not think that we'll get a subscription fee. Riot have mastered the free-to-play model over the past decade, and
That's
I'd be
fair.
surprised to see them step away from it. Even an upfront box price would surprise me, I think. Now, what is far more likely, at least in my opinion anyway, is a seasonal battle pass type system where you progress through 50 or so levels by completing in-game missions, like defeat 5 dungeons, kill a certain boss, win some PvP matches, you know, things like that. The rewards in that battle pass would range from character cosmetics, pets, mounts, skins, emotes, toys, and also currency for a dedicated cash shop. I think that cash shop will have limited runs of skinline bundles similar to Valorant, which you can buy unlocking, say, a High Noon set that consists of the armor, weapon skins, as well as some maybe emotes and pets and things like that.
That would
I
make
would
sense.
guess these things would be around the £30 mark and probably change each season, pulling from the skin lines that they already know are successful in
So that
League,
you
like
can make
Battle
sure-
Academia or the Anima Squad, Star Guardian, High Noon, the Ashen Knight stuff, you know, things like
Okay.
that. They've got so much to pull from.
So I mean that honestly, that falls in line with what they currently do, and then also like they're able to take advantage of like potential like FOMO, which is or can be a little scummy, but also if it's free to play, I think that's a fair bid for consideration.
And deliver that I think it would be bizarre for them not to sell skins on those lines there. So anyway, what are your thoughts? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Put them in the comments down below. If you don't have any thoughts at all, then just throw an emoji down there, as it tells YouTube that...
Oh yeah. Let's drop this man a like. This is a good video.